Bellicam. I work with Mahjong. We've been working together for a number of years. I guess one thing kind of eventually led to another, and suddenly we find ourselves building this studio kind of out of necessity, and it's been really great. It's been simultaneously the most gratifying and frustrating experience I can think I've been through. Everything seemed to fall into place in a strange way. I had been looking for spaces with another guy, and that didn't pan out. And at that same time, Mahjong, we'd already done one record together, where they were looking for a space, and so I suggested, hey, why don't we look together? And it turns out that Josh was looking for a place to live, and as was I, and so we moved into here, and found, a really, what we think is a great place. The landlord was very accommodating. He was, fine with us, building the space out. Yeah, we've got a longer term lease and all of that. That's a great situation, just Josh and I being able to be here and live here is great. Part of the reason which made my landlord really great is he's dealt with studio owners and has a couple of people who are, people who are making music, and so he'd kind of been through the whole thing. It was just like, you wouldn't have to explain the whole process to him because he'd been through it a few times. He's like, oh yeah, I know, all that. So I was kind of going through and looking at ways that we could make this space more unique and kind of open up the ceiling a little bit. A lot of the stuff has just been really research and more research. This was kind of my own idea, and we got it all up and completed and hanging, and it turned out really great. And then a friend of mine, it was really funny, she went to visit Sun Studios, and she had been helping paint this studio. A lot of friends have helped on this project, and she mentioned that the Sun Studios ceiling was also angled in kind of a similar fashion, and I was like, oh no way, that's great. A lot of acoustic materials that are labeled acoustic or tested acoustically are simply regular products that have gone through the rigorous testing, and once they get done, the people who are marketing and selling these products jack the price up, 100, 400, 1,000%. It's ridiculous, and sell it at huge markup when it's essentially the same thing that you could go and get for far cheaper. So that's been a huge part of a really big part of the process is, here's what we should be using. Let's find a material that is, similar, that does the same thing and has the same physical properties, and we can use it, and save a whole lot of money. There's a reason for everything. We built this off of the wall over there, so we didn't so we don't have as much sound going to the other space. It's not entirely scientific, but there were little ways that we come up with to be able to test to see if, essentially, if this structure that we're building was decoupled from the other structure. I guess maybe the biggest obstacle was I wasn't nearly as good of a carpenter when we started as I am, and I think all of us are now. Right here you can see there's a drum room. It's full of isolation or insulation stuff and other junk, and we'll get it all cleaned out and get drums in there. This is another isolation booth, and it's also functioning as a hallway, which is something that I noticed working at other studios is everyone would just throw a guitar amplifier in a hallway, and I figured, well, if I'm going to do that, I might as well float the floor just like every other room in here and make it as isolated as I can from everything. Each room has its own wall, and there's a couple layers of drywall on each side. And we're in the control room now. So this is the console that we'll be using. This is an old board from the 70s, which is, sonically, it's kind of a unique board. This is a Quad 8. Interesting thing is we had to build the room around the console, and this is obviously a window that's going to be, we'll be able to look out there. The floor I found, it's from an old Schoolhouse from the 20s, Craigslist, you know, just a lot of looking like that and trying to find, well, I don't want to go out and buy a whole bunch of brand new flooring if I can get, you know, some really cool stuff really cheap. So basically since we got into this space, it kind of immediately started as like, hey, can we come record? And I was kind of surprised, and I was like, well, yeah, I think so. And let me scrap together all the other stuff, because a lot of the stuff we'd done with Mahjong had been at other studios, so it kind of started, you know, developing. And you know, you buy one widget, and then the next time band comes in, you buy another one. For me, it's always there's a cost kind of benefit of it. You know, we can spend more time on a particular record than, you know, really expensive studios. And a lot of the music that I think we're all interested in is you know, not big budget oriented.